So if you are new to this style of video, to put simply, they are unscripted, minimal editing, peaceful, relaxing, pretty much just an open conversation. In saying that, the past couple of days have been interesting. I've been reflecting on Attack on Titan's newest chapter and just thinking about a lot of different things. And if you do want a more analytical, in-depth version, something that's well edited, I'd recommend go watching the video I done for it. Something that I didn't find enough time to fit into that video was pretty much just expressing my thoughts and opinions on specific panels. Stuff that was extremely memorable and very iconic for the series itself. There was a lot of beautiful artwork within that chapter. Undoubtedly, I feel like a lot of people have had a very similar time and reception towards the newest chapter. It was heartbreaking. It was emotional, but it was so enthralling to be engaged in. The way Isayama structured that chapter was ridiculous. It was a very intelligent way to manipulate our emotions and to pretty much guide us through very meticulously through these stages of Eren alongside the rumbling and everything taking place. What gave it such a powerful backbone was the previous chapter and how monumental that was in depicting Eren in such a ridiculously scary light. A very harrowing version of himself, his Titan form, looking ridiculous, looking horrifying. However, in the recent chapter, we seen a side of Eren that we haven't seen for a little bit, or at least to such a degree. The amount of raw emotion that Eren portrayed within that chapter was astounding. It was incredibly authentic, realistic, just tears you apart. Seeing how much he struggled to come to this situation, to come to this decision, to push forward with these results, knowing very portional bits and pieces of the future is such a detrimental and disgusting thing. Just think for a second, knowing the future that you're about to commit, which I feel like a lot of people don't actually recognize or realize within Eren's path, and every reaction he's made up to this point has all been propelled and in a response to the future that he has seen already. Knowing that he's on this path to cause such death and disgusting atrocities towards so many innocent people has broken him mentally, emotionally, even physically, to the point he's questioned different answers, different results, different directions that he could take. So many things swirling around in his mind, just struggling to find an answer. It's very rare that you get put in a situation like that, especially within stories where you already know the consequences that you're about to commit. You know these devastating events that are about to unfold by your hand, yet you still cannot deviate from that path, and you still want to go down that path, but you just know that your humanity, the things that made you a person before, is probably going to slip away. I do think this was a big thing for Eren, him realizing this, him understanding, or at least coming to understand that obviously the biggest thing holding him back from committing these massive atrocities was his humanity. That at the end of the day, he still loves and cares for his friends, his people, even people that don't matter to him, people that he's never met before. That child, Ramsey, was someone that he turned his back on once, and even though he knew the outcome, even though he knew the fate of Ramsey and what he was going to do to everyone in this area, he still turned back around and helped him out. Not only does this go to relay how conflicted Eren is, but seeing his realistic and deep emotion just overwhelm him, and him expressing that to Ramsey of all people, is that breaking point. Throwing all of this stuff out to a child that he has never met before, that he only just recently saved from getting beaten up, and he's so torn up about the idea of what's going to happen in the future. It's a disturbing and heartbreaking thing, and made that chapter so incredibly powerful. And then when you see the panels that support it, that encapture all of that emotion, or showcase a different perspective of Eren after all of it, is just wholeheartedly incredible. For me, my personal favorite's Eren's emotion and the betrayal of it. There was very specific and intricate panels of his face and just how desperate and distraught he was about the whole situation, and seeing everything unfold in such a very specific and meticulous type of way when reading that chapter was undoubtedly gut-wrenching. Yet not long after that, you get probably what I would think to be one of the most beautiful, tragic, scenic, atmospheric, pretty much everything Attack on Titan embodies in one specific panel. I would argue even one of the most iconic panels within the entirety of the series that will most likely be remembered alongside many others well after it's finished. Generations down the line, I feel like people would look back on this specific panel. And that's when we see child Eren high above the sky within the clouds with the words freedom, expressing that this view that he has right now is freedom on top of the death and destruction of all of these innocent people, this gruesome event that's unfolding. Yet you see child Eren so happy and excited for all of this to come through. There's a lot of different ways you can perceive Eren like that, and I've given my viewpoint for it in the more so well-edited video, so I would once again redirect you there if you want to see my opinion on it. But the panel itself is gorgeous. There has already been so many incredible colorings for it, so much beautiful artwork released surrounding that panel itself. I strongly believe because of the symbolism that this panel has, the impact, the meaning that it has, it's going to become somewhat of a flagship for people within the community already. Just seeing that panel, once everything comes to a conclusion, once the anime comes to a conclusion, which I'm hoping the anime does that panel justice, this one, alongside many others, embodies Attack on Titan. Just thinking about it deeply kind of makes me sad, knowing that the events that are taking place and how carefree and ignorant this child Eren is, how happy he is to see all of this unfold, in all the right words, heartbreaking. This is only one of the incredible panels we've had within that chapter. Arguably probably the most pinnacle panel, but not long after that we get a very gruesome depiction and very detailed depiction of all the Titans invading Mali and killing all of these people, which is very horrifying. But then we also get a massive landscape panel of Eren's Titan and all of the Wall Titans within the background marching away. This panel specifically just puts in perspective how massive and monumental everything is. It doesn't take place all too long after that child Eren panel, and it really gives you a polarizing experience when you put them side by side, as there's so many different emotions and backings for those emotions that conflict and contrast at the exact same time to create that said polarizing experience. I really love that landscape shot. You get a very good perspective of how massive everything is, how Goliathly vicious and dangerous everything is moving forward, and then you get a really good comparison of Eren Jaeger in his Titan form, how big it is, what's going on with it, and this is the first time we've seen it in its entirety. Considering the previous chapter, we got so many great depictions of the Titans within the water before they encountered the Navy and the ships. This one was a really nice way to capitalize on top of it, just to show everything in its glory and the scale of absolutely everything. The last panel that I want to mention is the final panel, which was a really interesting change of pace, in my opinion. There was something about that panel that felt extremely somber, very melancholic, something subtly emotional, and I can't necessarily put my finger on it. Maybe it's because of how Eren is depicted within that final panel, maybe how peaceful or tranquil he looks in comparison to the entirety of the chapter. There was something about it that just stood out to me, especially when it's backed on by the Armin and Annie stuff, which was a very nice change of pace, a very drastic change in pace, but one that definitely propelled this final panel with that tone. It pushed this panel forward with that shade of a saddening atmosphere. Especially when you go back and look at the official release, everything is in high detail, high quality. You see everything clearer and you understand the full picture better. If you haven't, I would highly recommend you go back and at least skim through the chapter in its high quality just to see everything in a much brighter way in what it's originally meant to be seen as, because the chapter that probably a lot of you read, including myself, was extremely dark, and there's not necessarily a problem with that. You still get a good amount of atmosphere and the intention behind the panels and the emotions, but going back and reading the high quality, you get a much clearer picture for it, a better understanding, and it's a lot easier to digest. You can appreciate the artwork as well. A lot of that fine artistic detail really gets destroyed in that darker version. It's definitely worthwhile just to go back and skim through it. To bring this video to a conclusion, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that Eren Jaeger, if not already, will be remembered as a character up there with some of the most iconic of characters to date. Right alongside Light Yagami and Johan from Monster, Eren Jaeger can fit perfectly up there if people don't equate to him being up there already. I feel it's better to restructure what I said. I feel both Attack on Titan and Eren Jaeger will be remembered and put in that Hall of Fame for generations to come. It has become such a monumental name, and Eren has become such a monumental figure that people will remember for years and will compare him to so many other iconic characters and stories over the generations. So later down the line, 10, 20, 30 years from now, people will look back and equate their own new iconic characters potentially to Eren Jaeger, to Light Yagami, to Johan from Monster. Seeing his character come to a conclusion is going to be a very brutal thing. Seeing Attack on Titan come to a conclusion after so many years is going to be a brutal thing, but I am wholeheartedly excited for it. I can't wait to see how Isayama brings his story, his characters, his worlds to a beautiful conclusion. To bring this video to an end, I would like to ask you, how do you feel not only about the recent chapter of Attack on Titan in a artistic sense? What was your favorite panel from the chapter or moment from the chapter? But also, how do you feel about the ending of Attack on Titan? How do you feel like it's going to come to a conclusion? What are you excited to see? What do you want to see happen? I'd love to hear your thoughts. But with that being said, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Drink plenty of water, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.